Hey, everybody. This is Next TMT Talks. This week, with our friends at Media Play News, we will look at the crazy SpaceX valuation and
Crazy.
where the real data gets carried. Authentic Brands is going public and getting more animated. Will digital gambling ads get banned, at least for under 18s? And it looks like that Disney bundle, whatever it is these days, actually works. Over at Paramount, is Barry Weiss getting edged out after a less than stellar first several months? And The Mandalorian and Grogu tests whether a TV show masquerading as a movie can get people to show up in theaters. All right, Daniel, you got a gripe up your butt about this whole crazy initial probable valuation, the trillion plus for SpaceX.
Yeah, it ruins my sense of symmetry and cohesiveness and justice.
What,
Justice.
what, what, what? I just want to throw this out there. How would it possibly still be intact after the last few years? How could symmetry and justice and all
Yeah,
that
but
lovely
the
stuff,
woman's
how could it
salute,
possibly still
so
be sensate?
the unseemly custody battles, what he did, what all this did to Tesla, its valuations. I mean, the stock cratered nearly 50%. Sales were down over 10% at one point.
No, they're still
The
down on the sales side, but it's a robot company now.
the trial last week, which was unseemly, the kind of also ran status in the AI game. I mean, who uses Grok? I mean, in terms of ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini.
I have some ideas.
Who? Who did it?
Sorry, I'm feeling like Dr. Strangelove. I can't help myself. I got to pull my arm down. I have
I
some
thought you were
ideas
just in
who's
the
using
room.
Grok. You know,
Who, David?
yeah. No, I was just waving to the fans.
Yeah.
You know, just waving to the fans, the people in the brown shirts over there.
The my lightning quick processing to allow to catch up to that. Yeah, I mean, all of this, and because according to analysts, his ability to curry favor with rockets, he's got a leading position. He's got the NASA contract. You know, in a satellite world, he's the guy who can take you where you need to go. So that's driving the valuation. Also driving the valuation is Starlink, satellite direct to device D2D internet, both at
Yeah,
home.
which is also the biggest customer, right, for SpaceX. I mean, SpaceX is taking up satellites to run Starlink, basically,
Right.
right?
Well, it's not just Elon Musk. Jeff Bezos and Amazon are into it in a big way. AT&T is part of the venture. It's a broader industry, but he's the biggest component of it at this point, the biggest beneficiary. And if you look, I mean, this is a tough week for me personally to watch this because you look at the looting of the federal government, the IRS slush fund that got established on Monday. It's a lot to watch. And then you watch Brendan Carr, chairman of the FCC. I know we've talked about him endlessly on here, but he's so influential. He was talking about on CNBC this week about the virtues of satellite D2D and how it is driving down cost and increasing speeds. Oh, Starlink increased prices by as much as 10% for specific tiers this week as well. So I don't know about that, but I do know that on a policy level, it's being given a pretty big leg up. That starts with this week. SpaceX wrote a letter to the FCC. Hey, said, hey, not for nothing, but that $1.6 billion of funding that you give to disadvantaged people in rural areas that it costs a lot to deliver them broadband, so you're funding that, you can just get rid of it. It goes to our competitors anyway. We'll take care of it. Yeah, the FCC, which banned all consumer routers except for Starlinks last month, we'll consider that. It just seems like things are a little gamed right now, a little rigged, as they used to say before that word became desensitized. So
Right.
it's tough to watch. It's a large valuation. 1.75 billion would put an aerospace company ahead of Meta and just behind the group that includes NVIDIA, Apple, Microsoft. Who else am I not mentioning here, David? The top five?
NVIDIA, Microsoft, it doesn't matter. The
Amazon.
usual suspects.
Yeah, so and it will make Elon Musk, who's already the richest man in the world with about, I think, anywhere between 600 billion to 800 and change billion valuation. He'll be the world's first trillionaire. So you can stroke the hairless cat with that money and do lots of things. So
Right.
uh, it's awesome.
That sounded vaguely lewd, but
Well, come on, all evil geniuses own a hairless cat. In our case, we own
gonna
dogs.
leave that one alone. That's why you're not an evil genius. So
Yeah.
today, Jamie Salter, chairman of Authentic Brands, actually chairman and CEO, went on CNBC to say, "Hey, I'm no longer the CEO. We got a new guy, Matt Maddox."
Tell us about authentic brands because I'm not too familiar. Maybe others
Yeah, so
are.
it's a big roll up of all these brands, some of which you've heard, like Nautica and stuff like that. But they
Yeah.
also have brands for some big personalities, and in Shaquille O'Neal's case, a really big personality. But even in Kevin Hart's case, a really
Mhm.
big personality and a really tiny body, as well as David Beckham. These guys show up all the time, and part of that you can credit to Authentic Brands, who gets them out and all kinds of ads and stuff. But Salter said content drives commerce, so they are going to be pushing more and more content to do
That's
more
ironic. 'Cause when
selling.
I think of authentic sports brands, I think of Charles Barkley, who seems pretty authentic all the time. That's kind of his brand. But I
He
don't
is
see that.
he is definitely not gated. That is absolutely true. There is no filter in there. It's like he's walking along. He's like, "Oh, and another thing I want to talk about. What about
Right.
that national debt?" I mean, it's like,
That's what
okay,
people like about
Charles.
it. It's
Yeah,
it's not bullshit at all.
right.
But Shaq's a little bit affected. I think Beckham is definitely, and I don't fault these guys. They've made a lot of money doing this and they've got a lot of fans. So
Yeah.
it is what it is. But authentic, I don't know. But it's a name. So anyway,
It's
go
a
ahead.
name, it's branding, they're all about branding. But it's 38 billion in revenue, more than 50 brands. Reebok's another one, along with these guys. I find it interesting. They're going to get more into animation. And part of what Salter had to say was there are more opportunities now, and he didn't really go into it, but there are more opportunities now for something like animation, given the merger between Paramount and Warner Brothers Discovery. I guess that open up a lane for them to do more stuff, maybe have some outlets that they think they can get into. So I find that fascinating. These guys twice tried to go public in the past, and private equity came along and put a bunch of money down. At 38 billion, there's probably not enough private equity, particularly given all the money going over to Elon and Anthropic and OpenAI. There's probably not enough more money laying around to go do a takeout again for
Yeah.
Authentic Brands. But it's a company to watch, I think, and the fact that they see content as a way to sell other stuff, and they marry that, I think, it's not a brilliant new idea, but
Right.
it is where a lot of this is going to go. And you do have giant celebrities, in some cases, literally, who are able to leverage their fame, their personalities, and not just doing endorsements, right? They're doing lots of different things and creating products and getting involved in lots of ways. Beckham, I believe, is a billionaire. Soon he'll own his own, like, Inter Miami MLS rocket, I'm sure,
Right. And
with
but not
Messi.
an open channel to his oldest son, I understand.
Well, kids these days, you may know something about that. Um,
Learning the hard way,
they,
Dave. The hard way.
yeah, yeah. So I find that interesting, but I think that's just
Oh,
the reason why I even brought it up is like, okay, this is something to watch, there's something going
it
on here,
is. And
you
I
know?
want to steer you back. And I hate to jump back. I should have asked you this a few minutes ago before we started talking about authentic brands. You mentioned the fiber transcontinental
Yeah,
cables that, and, 5%, I guess, of global traffic over the internet goes over satellite at this point. The rest, most of it's over fiber,
yeah.
but there's sort of a Strait of Hormuz, right?
They're equivalents of the Strait of Hormuz. The Strait of Hormuz, actually, is a couple things. So we know what's going on in the Strait of Hormuz. It's choking 20%
Sure.
of oil that feeds the major industries
The
across the
world
world, da da da.
geopolitical situation getting in the way of capitalism, essentially.
Right. But if you look at a map of where undersea cables go, which carry 95% of data at
Right.
this point, they tend to cluster and have to go through these underwater. They're all underwater, basically, and they have to go through some things like literally the Strait of Hormuz. Like there's major cables coming out of Qatar and Kuwait and UAE through the Strait of Hormuz, and they're a little bit vulnerable, as we found in the Baltic Sea,
Right.
where boats that may be tied to the Russian government may have accidentally dragged their anchor for miles and miles and disrupted major data cables in
Oh,
feeding into Europe. Okay, so these are vulnerable, and it's interesting to see how this will play out in any geopolitical stuff. But this is how we are connected in this globe. We are tied together by fiber optic cables. That allows all the things that go on in all the major cities of the world to connect with all the other major cities. So don't lose track of that. So,
sure. And if you're a fiber optic company, please call us to discuss sponsorship at Next TMT.
yeah, Lumentum, that's a good one. They're making a lot of money. They're a little bit off, but there's several others that are doing stuff.
Your help.
Corning Glass is obviously the big one, but
Right.
there's a bunch of others that are doing high speed cable data cables with fiber optics and all the switches and the things to cut the data so that you can send more capacity across the same little tiny cable. So
I saw
interesting stuff.
recently on fiber cuts how difficult they are to fix on site. It's like vascular surgery. It takes somebody
Right.
with
Vascular surgery on a rolling ocean.
right.
Okay. It's not just, oh, I'm going to do heart surgery. I'm going to do heart surgery on a boat doing this, so can make it tough. It's
That
pretty
for sure.
interesting stuff. But there's a piece by a guy that I know, Ken Rutkowski, got into it. And it reminds me, for those who are interested in a very entertaining but much older piece, Neil Stephenson, the great science fiction writer, did a science fact, lengthy, like 10,000 word piece, kind of looking at the history of undersea cables a good
Yeah.
20 years ago for Wired. And I still remember the piece because, Stephenson is a delightful, if very avuncular writer. And it does go on, but I mean, it is a rollicking tale about these guys that were taking copper wires and painting them with gutta percha, hot tar, and dropping them in the ocean, in the Atlantic Ocean, so that, Queen Victoria and I want to say it was Abe Lincoln could say hi, which
You
was
know, there's been
brain melting.
a steady kind of grandeur that's been applied to sort of frontiersmen who lay cable and string wires and the
Yeah,
cable.
like real world guys, that make AI possible are the guys that are like building the data centers and connecting the data centers and connecting the power supplies and putting those together. Those are like
Mhm.
real world people and jobs that are kind of important. So, we're coming up on that's a good one to say. Thanks, guys and gals, all you folks over there. You had some stuff about the Disney bundle, whatever it is these days,
Oh,
but it
well, good for you.
apparently actually works, right? That's what Hub says.
Yeah, we had some research a couple of weeks ago that put the Disney bundle at kind of it was stark to me how much more effective it was in terms of curbing churn. And Hub has new data out that kind of says the same thing. For the version that has Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN, 59% of people say they have no plans ever to cancel this thing. It's just if you look at that and the HBO bundle with Disney Plus and Hulu, they're just we'll have the graphic in tomorrow. I will try to show it tonight. By the time we edit this and show it to you, it's really a stark relief how much more effective it is than any other bundling mechanism.
It does beg some questions though, because the bundle is changed so much for Disney. So first of all, when I signed up for the Disney bundle in 2019, right?
Mm.
Thereabouts. ESPN Plus was pitiful. It was, oh, we're going to have the Tarleton State women's softball team playing against the Angelo State softball team on a non-conference game
Well, who's
in the
pitching?
regular season. nobody you've heard of who's been given $1 million for NIL. This is we're not talking about, those superstar SEC and Big 12, rocket arms throwing, who are
Yeah.
awesome. They're awesome. But I mean, it's just the really obscure stuff. And there wasn't any Big Four sports, it felt like. There wasn't, even in regular season, it didn't feel like there was really anything on it. It was just they had something as a placeholder. And then they launched ESPN, the app, the flagship app. And do you get all of that if it's folded into the bundle? And then also, what's going on with Hulu? Hulu is slowly, it's like Dorian Gray's picture. It's slowly being borged into Disney Plus, but you're being told you got to
Oh, you get those
pay
kind of
more.
R-rated biopics that go in there, including,
Right. Ryan Murphy puts out another horror fest on FX, or Noah Hawley's got something with Alien or whatever. And great. They're not my cup of tea, but they're a lot of people's cups of tea. But that's not much. I mean, those guys are only putting out, a handful of
right.
shows,
Yeah,
and you're
it's
going to
lean.
pay another chunk, incremental extra chunk. But at least it's more than, all of
Mhm.
Disney's children's programming. If you don't have kids, you really don't care, or you don't,
Well, it
whatever.
makes me,
That being said, I want to segue real quick. This week, the Mandalorian and Grogu,
yeah,
the first Star Wars film in 7 years, I think, is coming, and it is, by all accounts, could have been an extended TV episode, which is where it came from.
I've been
So it's gonna be
watching
interesting.
AI generated fan fiction on Reel. It's not slop to me, man. It's some of that stuff is like there's one where Palpatine shakes down an admiral after the Death Star is destroyed. Pray that you bring me better news next time. It's just like the guy's management style is really great. Things to learn.
He makes Elon look forward thinking.
Yeah. Anyway, I hate to say this. I'm taking me and the oldest son. He's down from Berkeley, and we're gonna go check it out on Friday. I'm kind of geeked up about it. I like the first couple seasons of
I
the Disney
I
Plus
liked
series.
I liked the TV show. Liked the TV show. I thought it
Yeah.
was a rollicking space opera, a lot of fun. Different little window in all the Star Wars stuff. It was a little bit less existential. The Empire versus the whatevers versus the guy. It's like this
Yeah.
guy, this sort of cowboy guy, coming rolling into town, and he ends up having a soft spot for a funny looking little dude. But it's charming. And certainly from a production standpoint, what Jon Favreau was able to do with virtual production and Unreal Engine technologies to create that very compelling thing at a fairly reasonable price, it was pretty remarkable. But does it scale up to, an hour and a half, 2 hours? And we'll see. It's the first one under the new guy. Kathleen Kennedy got given the invitation to become an independent producer again, which
Right.
is what she was great at. She's one of the all-timers there. No one thinks she was great as the Star Wars,
That's true.
and what's his name? Filoni, Dave Filoni, I think is his name, is the
Yeah.
creative guy. They've got two guys. They got a money guy and they got Filoni, long timer, kind of overseeing the creative stuff. So he's doing a lot of fan management. But we'll see how this thing plays out and whether it gives Star Wars some new places to go, because it's felt a little like, where do we do now? Where do we go now? We've had 9 films plus some other odds and ends, and like, what do you
Yeah.
do with this thing you spent $4 billion on and help George Lucas build his new museum, which is coming in September over by USC? But where do you go? So I guess this is sort of telling about Filoni as the new head,
Hmm.
about the future of Star Wars in general and where they might go with it. And I mean, they're going to sell a bunch of Grogu dolls. We know that.
I wrote a treatment and I pitched it. This was to Bob Iger those days. It was Gina Carano played a kind of MAGA Star Wars figure that, like Palpatine, like Vader, posted positively on social. Anyway, we don't need to go there.
How did that go? Was Iger fascinated by your take?
Oh, it's in development.
It's okay
Well,
on a
it's permanent
long time
hold,
scale.
permanent something, shelf something.
Oh, yes. It will never see the light. If they paid you for that, that would be impressive. But anyway,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
right. Very funny, David.
Speaking of things that might be on a shelf soon enough, Paramount Skydance may be having some buyer's remorse after dropping $150 million on the free press to
Yeah.
install a non-TV person in charge of one of the most vaunted news organizations in broadcast television, CBS News. Barry Weiss may be having
I
less to
remember
do soon.
you were the first person to ever introduce me to the word Dockapil. Who? Dockapil.
Yeah, right. Well, as my spouse likes to put it, Katie Chur's husband. That's really how she defines Tony Dokapil or
Oh,
Dokapil or whatever he is. He's Katie Chur's spouse,
you mean the
and
daughter of the helicopter guy? The famous guy who I forget, Jason Tour, or he's since transitioned, but he was the guy who flew the helicopter in LA over the riots, over the Simpson chase.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know that. I just know that Katie has been with MS now, NBC, blah blah blah, for a
Right.
long time. Very well regarded. So they're a two network family, and you know, places like some of the more left leaning publications like to call
Mhm.
Dokapil MAGA coded, which I
Yeah.
find amusing. Daily Beast does that, as they're apparently on full rant about everything. But his ratings started off poorly, have never gone up. They were already third among the three broadcast networks news organizations, and none of
Right.
what she has done, none of the levers she's pulled has made it better. So the only thing they do well on is CBS Sunday Morning News in
I
terms of
just don't think you
ratings.
can go soft right anymore if you're going to go that direction. And there's an audience
Mm.
there. I'm speaking from trying to be as neutral as I can about this. You either have to go all the way like Newsmax and get past that
Yeah, it's a
Fox rate.
fan service question, right? I mean, it's like either you are all in, where Fox News is not right wing enough. You really got to go in OAN, or, you
Right.
got to go that way, or don't bother us, because that's just, it's the Thomas K. Massey issue. Massey actually a very interesting figure. It's a shame he lost, but boy, he's
Yeah.
going to stir some doo doo over the next 8 months before he leaves office.
Didn't he already change his vote on something important? Was it related to the ballroom, or it was some crucial funding decision?
I'm sure he will find he's a very smart guy. He's got a couple of engineering degrees. He
Yeah.
wears a pen that he made himself that updates the current national debt total.
Mm.
He made it himself, and it pulls down the data and updates. He's that kind of guy. I kind
I
of
don't
think he's
know.
pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it couldn't have been easy to watch your career go away as you make the
Well, he's
decisions you
got
make.
options. He's gonna be fine. He's got a dairy farm, he's got other stuff going on, he's interested in a whole bunch of things. He might actually be more interesting out of office. But what's going to be interesting is a bunch of people that are tightly tied to the president at a time when the president may be more anchor than balloon for their prospects in
Right.
general elections at a time when all this redistricting has turned a lot of safe seats into less safe seats. And it'll be fascinating to see how that plays out. It's impossible to try to handicap it, but it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. So anyway,
It's going to be
but Barry
interesting to see.
Weiss, she's doing less, right? They already had an issue because they had the head of news, and then they had Barry Weiss as the editor in chief, which no
Right.
broadcast operation has ever had.
Well, I think
Whatever.
she's fumbled away some talent. Anderson Cooper's last episode of 60 Minutes just aired, and his departure, he stated it. It was because of her.
Yeah, right. And now they're going to buy the company he's still at. It's like, you can't get away, Edison. We're coming for you. We
He'll
want
be
you at.
fine, just like Massey. Somebody will put him to work.
Yeah, here's what he'll do. He'll go off to Netflix. He'll do interview shows. He'll do like hour-long interviews with interesting people, and Netflix will pay him a lot of money. And he'll hang out with his kids. He's got young kids, so he'll hang out with his kids. Lovely. That's fantastic.
60 Minutes is or was a very highly rated news magazine.
Yep.
It's
Top
years
10 for
old.
60 years, right?
Yeah. And you can't just crater it. I mean, a competitor's going to reinvent it and take all the talent. I mean, if you put enough into the universe, even if they're 85 years old, I think Leslie Stahl's that age. Very vital reporter still for that age. My God.
She
But
is, but you have to think there's not too many more years she's going to be strapping on a helmet and going into a war zone. Yeah, I mean, some of their talent is getting up there. They're some of the greats in the history of broadcasting, but
so
they're reaching kind of the end there.
the ever-present Matt Bellamy is the only one who has, I guess, reported this so far that they're kind of considering downscaling Bari Weiss's responsibilities. The view is she spread it a little bit too thin, but we're speculating on motive at this point. I've heard they're going to
Well,
bring in.
maybe that's the excuse. You spread too thin. It's like, how can you be spread too thin? You've got somebody doing a bunch of other stuff, and then
Right.
you're just sitting there saying, I want this person or I'm going to hold this story. I mean, what's spreading you thin unless she's trying to really run the free press as well? It's still going and it's
Well,
owned by Paramount, but I think her sister's running it and her wife is running it and things like that. So,
I like a
you
good
know,
conspiracy as much as the next guy.
yes, you do.
I
Yes.
see in here that David Ellison wants to get the Warner Brothers deal closed this summer, and
Mm.
you got to get past. I mean, you've already got Trump in the bag and the DOJ and the FCC, but you need to convince Rob Bonta, the California Attorney General, to let it happen.
But it's actually 13 states attorneys general from both parties, right?
Right, Bonta's probably the most influential, no, because he's in the home state for
Yeah.
the company. So, what if you were to walk it back just a little bit, go through, and hire somebody big who's sort of not as polarizing as Bari Weiss, that sort of for now sates the 60 Minutes crew. You re-up Stull under contract because you hired somebody new that she can tolerate. And then once you get everything approved again, you go back to dismantling CNN and making
Well,
her
I mean, look, the real issue is not, oh, you put somebody who's less obnoxious in charge of CBS News. Big deal. You still have two premier news organizations under one roof with a debt to EBITDA load of crushing debt and need to rationalize things. The only thing that makes sense to me is somebody like Rob Bonta requires it to be spun off,
right.
one or the other or both. But obviously, CNN would be the easy one to spin off and let it go be a daily beast, I guess. That doesn't make Trumpy happy, but just having a slightly more acceptable face over a merger that blows up both organizations can't be seen. I can't imagine would be seen as okay. Who
Right.
knows? Maybe they'll give them some SpaceX stock and they'll be over the moon about it, so to speak.
Speaking of over the moon, I think if he jumps high enough, Victor Wembanyama of the San Antonio Spurs could probably achieve that goal. I said this before, but I am just dumbfounded over the future of the NBA. I have never seen a player dominate a game like this. He was just, I
He had
mean,
a great game. It's one game of seven, so we'll see how it goes. But
I
he's
know
a
they're playing
fantastic
right now
player.
as we tape this, and maybe things change, but Oklahoma City against the Lakers and the Suns before that looked unstoppable. Nobody could grab a rebound because they had two 7-footers out there just dominating. And
Snatching him. Yeah.
you take Wimby and they talked about him being a little raw still. I didn't see it. Ambidextrous, and I was a little surprised they interviewed him after the game, and he was a little bit, I had talked about him being preternaturally gifted at talking to the media a few weeks ago. He wasn't as good talking to Lisa Salter. Forget who was talking to him on
On the
Monday.
sideline after he just played overtime game and scored 43 points and 23 rebounds or whatever the heck it was. I
He
think you
needs
need
to
to
be
cut the
like
kid a little
Shakespeare.
slack on this one, buddy.
He needs to be like
Just saying.
Shakespeare, or he's out of the top 10, Dave.
Yeah, that's right. He's out of there. I don't care if you're still huffing and puffing. You got to be able to bring it like, I don't know, Jesse Jackson in his prime Otherwise, we don't care. He's
No,
going to be fine.
if he
The real
stays healthy,
issue
he has
is,
the possibility to become the GOAT. He's starting so early in his gifts. Jordan wasn't 7'3" or however tall the guy is. To see a guy like that move like that, I've watched the NBA my whole life. I've never seen it.
well, I think the more important and relevant conversation might be, boy, I bet those people that put down $76 billion for the rights to the NBA for the next several years are extremely happy with both the Eastern and Western Conference matchups and the stars on display out of New York and Cleveland to a lesser extent, but the
Yeah.
two Western Conference teams. And they're looking, I got to think, pretty good and looking pretty good for a while to come. There's some good, young, strong, talented teams that have some big personalities and narratives. And the challenge was, where's the league go after Steph and LeBron and Kevin Durant and a few other the guys that sustained them the last 15 or 20 years? When they finally retire, they're going to have to roll those guys off in a wheelchair. They're going to be like roughly my age, and they're fantastic, extraordinary first ballot Hall of Famers, but their time is near an end. They're like Leslie Stahl. Now you have this set of Shea Gilgeous-Alexander and all these other, and Victor Wembanyama, but also Stephon Castle and Jalen Williams and all these other young players, Jalen Brunson, good, extremely talented young players who will pick up that mantle. And I think if you have punked down billions of dollars, you've got to be feeling pretty good about having done that here in the
On
first year.
my thread of cosmic justice, the man who didn't plunk down the big money for the NBA, David Zaslav, is media's highest paid CEO. So,
Mm.
you know, based on
Right.
my
He lost out, but he didn't really lose out. But he may not get invited to too many parties going forward. We'll see. Maybe he will. He's
you
got
can
his
throw
kitchen
your own
cabinet.
parties with the kind of money he makes.
You can buy the whole damn restaurant. Yes, you can do that. Zaslav, one of the things, though, in talking about sports, I want to make sure there is a bipartisan bill suggesting a ban on advertising for digital gambling apps and sites for that reach under 18. They have an exception for sports, and that's important because gambling ads are overwhelmingly financing all the sports broadcasts now.
Yeah.
And if this takes hold and they start to crunch it a little harder,
So who's deciding this?
there's a lot of reason to do it. I just want to say I think there's a lot of reason to do it because, there's a lot of data I've been seeing recently. Matthew Ball had his very compelling 160-page presentation on the state of the game business. And one of the reasons that they're having a problem is that young men are now dealing with other kinds of interactive digital experiences besides just playing video games. And they include gambling and prediction market apps. That's one of the things. So that are consuming a chunk of their attention and leading, I think, to a lot of obsessive behavior that's not great. It's going to be a real mess that the league's made a real Faustian deal, and I think we're going to have to do some cleanup on aisle 5 here. So
Yeah,
this
you've
is a
been
first
concerned
step.
about the online betting phenomenon for a long time, and it's
Yeah.
in a very competitive, expensive sports rights media business. It does seem to have gotten out of hand. I don't think there's a real appreciation for just how addictive it can be, and especially for the target market.
Well, and beyond everything else, I mean, you're corrupting the games themselves, and that will hurt your viewership if they perceive that, particularly these sort of, the eighth guy on your team or the 10th guy on your team, he gets in,
Right.
but maybe, there's a comp bet or a bet on him, getting 4 rebounds. And all of a sudden he's like, oh, I got a stomachache. I can't play. But he comes in and he gets a stomachache. He can't play. So the people that arrange that make a lot of money. Those kinds of things are already happening. Chauncey Billups, a Hall of Fame player and a head coach of Portland, is among those accused of gambling. Um, just in the last year. And there's a whole bunch of others, Jonte Parker, and there's a whole bunch of these
Yeah, I
kids.
forgot about that unfolded at the turn of the season, beginning of the
Yeah,
season in the
yeah. There was a
Portland
whole
for
bunch of stuff.
well.
Terry Rozier was running allegedly part of, I think, a high stakes poker game, but he was kind of like one of the guys that down in Miami. It was kind of like getting people to want to take part and stuff like that. It's just dirty. It's dirty stuff. And it undermines any credibility the game has, particularly during the regular season. It creates all kinds of weird stuff. And we won't even get into what it's like when you have these prop bets on, college kids or, for God's sakes, high school kids to do this or that. It's like, I need you to not score this or I will kill you. The kids are getting threats like that. I mean, that's nuts. Totally nuts.
So we want to do a plug before we get out of here. We've got our 9 under 90 super impactor wonder influencer list that we're trying to sell in next TMT. We hope that you'll submit your names and sponsor it, of course.
So you're saying under 90, I'm still eligible for my own list?
Yeah, you've got a
Because
lot
that's
of
my
running.
only shot.
If
I'm
not
not
this year,
doing 30 for 30 anymore, so I tell you that.
no, seriously, we're going to be doing the official show daily at the Stream TV show in Denver next month. 4 issues that go directly out to all the attendees, exhibitors, speakers, hangers on, the guy running the AV, you name it, at the biggest event in streaming. Your brand seen first thing in the morning. People they wake up, they see your brand. And David and I will make it nice and engaging. And
we'll be doing podcasts from the scene too.
yeah,
Mostly talking about all the things we saw at the show. There'll be plenty to talk about. You and I are both doing panels, so should be great.
we'll be super focused.
Yeah. Unlike everything else we do, uh,
No, it'll be
says
great.
says the guy watching you careen once more into some random sports thing. It's like, okay.
Yeah, I do that sometimes. So yeah, reach out, Dave. I'll let you handle the rest. You do your thing, and we'll
All right.
do it in a couple
Well,
days.
this is Next TMT Talks, our midweek edition, distributed in partnership with our good friends over at Media Play News, and we always appreciate their support and help and helping make this the best, biggest thing ever. You can share, subscribe. You can share, subscribe, comment. We like comments usually. Go to Next TMT, as in media text. That's for telecom, media, and technology. And go to nexttmt.com and sign up for the newsletter. If you don't get it, you can get this here podcast delivered twice a week, also on YouTube, on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, which turned 20. It's turning 20. Look at that. Spotify is now 20 years old. So happy birthday. You're almost old enough to drink, Daniel Eck. And with that, we will wrap this up. Thanks, everybody. Bye.